At this point, it's almost like every single big-name actor in Hollywood is linked to a specific comic book superhero or villain in the movies. The luckiest of them land a role in the MCU, which for all intents and purposes is the king of the hill when it comes to superhero movies. Certain actors were lucky enough to land the role of a lifetime, while others had to deal with getting told no and probably venturing over to DC or something. Then there's a small group of actors who auditioned for a role in the MCU and got it, only not the role they were auditioning for.
I went through a phase of just doing self-tapes after self-tapes after self-tapes.
Yeah, that's right. The MCU as we know and love it today could have been very different if Disney had made some different casting choices. A lot of actors you're familiar with seeing in Marvel movies now actually tried out to play a different role. Can you imagine what things would have been like if Chadwick Boseman was someone other than T'Challa? Or if another one of the Avengers played the part of Captain America? Strap in, because we're about to go over a slew of different Marvel actors who tried out for different roles. Chris Pratt as Captain America. It's tough to imagine now because everyone knows Chris Evans as Captain America and Chris Pratt as Star-Lord, but those weren't the original plans. Pratt originally auditioned for the role of Captain America several years before he landed the role of Peter Quill. Again, this was a while before Guardians of the Galaxy eventually came to fruition, while Pratt was still just getting started on Parks and Recreation. He had yet to appear in any dramatic roles either, such as Moneyball or Zero Dark 30. He didn't land the part, but he made enough of an impression to remain on the mind of the casting director Sarah Finn, who recommended him to Guardians director James Gunn for the part of Star-Lord. It's a good thing that things worked out this way, because Pratt's hilarious personality went way better with the Peter Quill character, and Chris Evans's clean-cut, wholesome image paired perfectly with America's hero, Steve Rogers. Chadwick Boseman as Drax the Destroyer. Well, this certainly would have altered the character a little bit, wouldn't it? We all know Chadwick Boseman is T'Challa, the Black Panther, but did you know that he actually originally auditioned for a different role? Yep. He first tried out for the part of Drax the Destroyer in Guardians of the Galaxy. Of course, the role ended up going to Dave Bautista, who's done a wonderful job with the character. Boseman is a great actor, and I'm not so sure his style would have meshed well with the silly, borderline comedic tone of the Guardians movie and the Drax character.
I have sensitive nipples.
Boseman was probably upset when he didn't get the part, seeing as he was just coming off a leading role in 42 as Jackie Robinson's. Ultimately, it all worked out for the best. He didn't get to play Drax, but he ended up in the MCU regardless, only with a leading role in a massive blockbuster movie. We can't help but wonder what the Drax character would have been like if Boseman got the part. It would certainly be weird, but nowhere near as weird if Dave Bautista played T'Challa. Lupita Nyongo as Nebula. While on the subject of Black Panther actors who almost played other parts, did you know that Lupita Nyongo originally auditioned for the role of Nebula? Sheesh, that first Guardians of the Galaxy movie would have been way different. That's right, Nyongo originally tried joining the Marvel Universe much sooner than her debut in Black Panther as Nakia. She had just finished her future Oscar-winning role in 12 Years a Slave and was looking for her next project. Ultimately, she didn't get the part, as it went to Karen Gillan, but that worked out for all parties because Nyongo was one of the highlights of Black Panther. Karen Gillan as Sharon Carter. Speaking of Nebula, that's not even the role that Karen Gillan originally auditioned for. Her first attempt at joining the MCU was as Sharon Carter in Captain America: The Winter Soldier. She had met with Marvel and auditioned to be the Captain's new love interest. At the time, she was wrapping up her time on Doctor Who as the character Amy Pond. Ultimately, Gillan didn't get the part, as it went to Emily Van Camp instead. In hindsight, that worked out better for Karen Gillan. Also, what's the deal with Marvel's casting process? Karen Gillan wanted to play Sharon Carter, but instead they gave her Nebula. Lupita Nyongo wanted to play Nebula, so instead they gave her Nakia? Is it just a never-ending process of moving someone over to the next available role? Tom Hiddleston as Thor. This one is probably the most awkward one to think about on the whole list. Tom Hiddleston is famous for playing the role of Loki, Thor's mischievous and sometimes downright evil little brother. He plays such an iconic role, it's almost uncomfortable to think about Hiddleston playing the part of Thor. That is most certainly what almost happened though. When Hiddleston went in for his audition for the movie, he was trying out for the lead role. Marvel did some screen tests with him and even had him sport blonde hair and hold the famous hammer Mjolnir. Of course, they eventually went with Chris Hemsworth for the role, but Hiddleston left such a lasting impression that they brought him aboard as Loki instead. He's since proven to be a fan favorite and one of the most integral parts of the MCU. Sebastian Stan as Captain America. This is another one that just feels icky to visualize. We all know and love Sebastian Stan as Bucky Barnes, the Winter Soldier. He's Captain America's best friend, but things would have been vastly different if he was Captain America. When it came time to audition for Captain America: The First Avenger, Stan wanted the role. Casting director Sarah Finn felt that he was bringing too much darkness to the delivery that just wasn't right for the role of the Cap. Still, she was impressed by what she saw and suggested Stan played the role of Bucky Barnes in their next Captain America installment, and the rest was history. In fact, with Bucky Barnes set to appear in the upcoming Falcon and the Winter Soldier show on Disney+, Stan's character will actually be spending a longer time in the MCU than Captain America. This also just goes to show how important and useful it is that Marvel plans out their movies so far in advance. This way, they can keep an eye on potential talent for future roles that aren't even being casted for yet. Anthony Mackie as Mandarin. Speaking of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, the role of Sam Wilson has been famously portrayed by Anthony Mackie. While the character isn't one of the original Avengers and doesn't have his own standalone movie to speak of, he's still one of the most important characters in the MCU. He's certainly one of the most iconic heroes, but did you know that Anthony Mackie originally intended on playing a bad guy? His first audition happened prior to being cast as Falcon, when he screen tested for the role of the Mandarin in Iron Man 3. The role would ultimately go to Ben Kingsley, which really makes me wonder what the casting call looked like. Speaking of Falcon, that role almost went to someone entirely different as well. While Anthony Mackie was auditioning to play the Mandarin, it was Michael B. Jordan who was auditioning to play the Falcon. Fortunately, he wouldn't get the part and would go on to join the MCU as the iconic role Eric Killmonger in Black Panther. While Michael B. Jordan probably would have been great in the role of Falcon as well, it was probably for the best. In fact, that wasn't even Jordan's first time appearing in the Marvel Universe. In 2015, he played the Human Torch in the Fantastic Four, a movie that was a historical failure. While it was a Marvel movie, it didn't exist within the Marvel Cinematic Universe that we know today, and it's a good thing people barely remember that Fantastic Four movie. Sam Rockwell as Iron Man. Look, Sam Rockwell is a fantastic actor. He's funny, he's talented, and he always delivers in any role he plays. Having said that, there's just no conceivable way that he'd have been as perfect for the role of Tony Stark as Robert Downey Jr. was. It's just not possible. RDJ was just perfect for the role. Had Rockwell been the lead role and been the one to kickstart the MCU way back in 2008, there's just no telling where the franchise would be today. Jon Favreau liked what he saw with Rockwell, though, and ended up using him as Justin Hammer in Iron Man 2. The role of Justin Hammer was meant to be a Tony Stark wannabe, with a very similar attitude, only, bad. Who wanted to be Star-Lord? This is an interesting one, because there were several big-name actors in the running to play Star-Lord before the part went to Chris Pratt. In fact, 3 of the actors they were considering ended up in the MCU playing different roles. First off, Lee Pace auditioned to play Peter Quill. Instead, he ended up getting cast in the movie only to play the film's antagonist, Ronan the Accuser. Imagine going in to audition for a part and end up being cast as the character's opposition. Funny how things work out, isn't it? Pace wasn't the only Marvel actor to try out for the role, as Michael Rosenbaum also auditioned. Rosenbaum is a close personal friend of Guardians of the Galaxy director James Gunn, so he had a leg up on the competition. Of course, the role would eventually go to Chris Pratt, but Gunn still found a way to utilize his buddy, casting him to play Martinex in the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Zachary Levi was another actor who tried out for the role of Star-Lord. He didn't get the part, but he was eventually cast to replace Josh Dallas in the the role of Fandral in 2013's Thor: The Dark World. Levi would go on to get his lead role in a superhero movie starring in 2019 Shazam. Other actors who were seriously considered for the role of Peter Quill included Joel Edgerton, Jim Sturgis, Jack Hudson, and Eddie Redmayne. All that to say, good for Chris Pratt. Jake Gyllenhaal as Doctor Strange. Jake Gyllenhaal has wanted to be a part of the MCU for quite some time, and it makes sense. He's a bona fide A-list actor with some serious acting chops. Why shouldn't he land a prominent role in the largest movie franchise of all time? Seemingly every big-name celebrity under the sun plays a corresponding superhero. It almost didn't make sense that likable, popular, good guy Jake Gyllenhaal didn't have one. According to reports, he was very close to playing the role of Doctor Strange. Of course, that part would eventually go to Benedict Cumberbatch, who did an absolutely wonderful job. Gyllenhaal is a great actor, but there's no telling if and how he could have topped Cumberbatch's masterful performance. And don't feel too bad for Jakey Boy either. He ended up getting his MCU part portraying the role of Mysterio in Spider-Man: Far From Home. Whether or not we'll see him in that role on the big screen again is still up in the air. It's crazy to think how drastically different the MCU could have been with just a couple different casting choices. We're glad things worked out the way they did though. Which one of these entries do you wish actually happened? Would you have liked to see Chris Pratt as Captain America or Michael B. Jordan as Falcon? Let us know which one you'd be most curious to check out in the comments section below. Before you go, don't forget to hit that thumbs up button. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to ScreenRant to stay up to date on all our latest releases. Until next time, see you later.